Hello, my name is Katie, and this is my heroic story of overcoming artistic oppression. Let's go! Since birth, I've pretty much been surrounded by stories and cartoons my entire life. Like many children of my day, I played my Disney VHS tapes basically to the point of destruction, and they're what got me to start drawing as a kid. My parents could tell you that I grew out of stick figures pretty young, and started experimenting with expressions and movement as early as kindergarten. At that time, I wrote my own stories and I drew the pictures that went along with them. We still have a giant collection of these books in my house. I don't think we're ever getting rid of them. I wrote tons of stories and I drew all the time. It was my favorite thing to do, and I kept doing it well into my adolescent years. I thought, surely, I would be an artist when I grew up. I didn't exactly grow up with the usual array of kids' movies. My parents are movie buffs, and although I still had plenty of cartoons and animations in my archives, there was no way any child of theirs wasn't going to know Golden Age films. They showed me classic and famous movies as a kid. I specifically remember watching The Princess Bride in my favorite year, along with Charade and Singing in the Rain, all when I was fairly young, and they had a big impact on me from the beginning. As I approached my teens, movies became a bigger part of my life, and they absolutely fascinated me. I'd watch directors' commentaries over movies and behind-the-scenes footage on DVDs instead of watching the actual movies themselves. This interest turned into my leaving behind my drawings and starting to direct and edit my own home movies. I remember my family getting our first Macintosh computer, and I learned how to edit movies on their iMovie program. Good times. I used to burn DVDs off iMovie and give films we had made together to my friends as gifts, and it was at this point that I was sure I was going to be a film director when I grew up. By the time I was really good at camera work and editing, I wanted to write my own original movies, and that's exactly what I did. I wrote a full-length script, which was 93 pages by the way, and did concept art, designed characters, storyboarded, and recruited my friends to star in my movie all at the age of 13, because I was what you'd call a determined little shit. But I discovered that working with others who don't have the same interest or vision as you can be hard, or damn near impossible. I struggled for quite a few years trying to band people together to create something I thought could be great, but nothing ever came to fruition. But it was during this time of struggle that I returned to my roots in drawing. I was really into the chaotic works of Jonan Vasquez and his wonky and unusual style, which made me really want to draw again. And I watched as my storyboards slowly started to become comic books with fleshed out characters and my own developing art style. And it was this newfound talent that led me to going to an arts high school. I was so confident in my drawings and original style and characters going in. They had caught so much attention for me during middle school, I thought surely they'd catch attention for me again. They were kinda like my children. But we were not as welcomed as we had thought. Instead, we were greeted by traditionalism, and a curriculum that demanded conformity with a "why can't you draw more like blank" attitude. Teachers would spit the word cartoony at me, as I was not doing art the right way to them. It was great. I loved it. I lived in the shadows of those who were talented traditionalists, and was looked down upon and forced to draw like everybody else in order to get by. It was like drawing with someone else's hands. This negative atmosphere and other reasons that felt the need to bite me in the ass at exactly the same time really pressed down on me. I fell into a depression and retreated to my characters and drawings in secrecy, building up in my mind that it was only something I could do on the side, that it was nothing I could ever do anything with in the future. Great! My original style still flourished during this time of secrecy nonetheless, and I was really proud of what I was doing, even if I felt like I couldn't show my work to anybody. I wrote more and more, and I created so many characters and stories I was bursting at the seams with creativity. And nobody knew because the work I turned out at school was exactly how they wanted me to be. Exactly like everybody else. By the time applying for college came around, I was really riddled with anxiety. Because guess what? When you spend the last 4 years of your life being exactly what everyone else wants you to be instead of being yourself, you end up with no portfolio. I didn't see any of the work I had made then as my own. I felt trapped, just like I did at the beginning of high school. Yay! And that's when I found the Arts and Design Foundation program at George Brown, and it was like a godsend. I'm building my portfolio here right now, and I'm actually really proud of what I'm doing because I'm allowed to be myself here. What a concept, am I right? I've successfully applied to the graphic design program here at George Brown as well, and I'll see how that treats me next year. Now, this is the part where I tell you what the future holds for me, but to be honest with you, I don't know. But that's exactly why I'm at George Brown right now, figuring my way out. I'm going into graphic design where I'll presumably gain skills and a better idea of what's out there for me, and ideally somehow all this ends up with me publishing my own comics. But I'm still young and I have time to learn and refine my skills and explore. And we seem to live in a world with an infinite retry button, which is good. And now this is the part where I leave you with a message, and this is for all my illustrators and cartoonists out there. You're definitely not the only one to be beaten down by the traditionalist supremacy. And I know it seems like the smarter option to give into the supremacy and do as you're told, but I'm here to tell you, while perhaps that may get you somewhere in life faster, you're not going to be happy with it because you're not being, well, you. Which is lame, I know, but it's true. It's painfully true. Daring to be different can be very hard and quite the pain in the ass, if I may say so myself. But allow me to leave you with some pseudo-Latin words of wisdom my parents would say to me. Nil carborundum illegitimi. Which sounds really poetic, right? But really, it just means, don't let the bastards grind you down, which is actually more poetic in English now that I think about it. But in all seriousness, if I had to sum up the lesson to be taken away from this video, it would have to be just go out and do what you want to do. And don't listen to what others have to say because their opinion won't matter in the end. You're also allowed to change your mind, and it's perfectly fine too, because it will work out eventually. I promise. Room for you! Thanks for listening.
Winter, 1996. I was 4 years old. Met up one afternoon with my best friend Adam. We were to have yet another meeting about becoming dinosaurs as we got older. As those days went on, it became more of a reality, less of a fantasy. We had spent what felt like an eternity in these tiny bodies, tired of being powerless. I spent most of 1997 dedicated to becoming a raptor. They're quick, intimidating, and they look sick when they dunk. That fall, I discovered the game of soccer. Football, if you make sense. I was fast. I was good at it. I remember thinking, it's about damn time. I had to admit to myself that I was spending less time trying to become a dinosaur. It hurt so much, and it put a serious strain on my relationship with Adam. The straw that broke the camel's back was my discovery of art. I was introduced to a grade school teacher who showed me the ancient practice of drawing with a pencil. All I seemed to want to do was draw and play soccer. I had no time for Adam, and less time for dinosaurs. We're gonna be 6 soon, man. You need to grow up. We made a promise. We were in this together. And nah, I'm out. I won't sit by idle while you throw your life away. I want to draw. I have to do this. I'd let him down. I know it. But people change, you know? People grow up. And apparently, people betray their best friends. Over the next few years, I'd see him now and then. He seemed to give up on the idea of being a dinosaur as well. I don't blame him. Who would want to go through that alone? I'd grown an interest in every facet of art. I evolved, over time, into an artist, a designer. Self-proclaimed, but still. Every now and then I would think to myself, though, wouldn't it be nice to be a raptor? Even if just for a day. So there it is. Here's the story of how I destroyed a friendship and a dream. But I had a new one. Art is what I wanted to do. So art's what I've been doing. This is who I am now.
I wish I could tell you an endearing story about a happy-go-lucky, well-adjusted kid who just happened to love art, who grew up in a normal home and had lots of friends. But this isn't that kind of story. Growing up, I was always different. I know, that sounds really cliché, but I was a bit too different. I cried all the time about everything and anything. I didn't know how to make or keep friends. I didn't know how to deal with even minor inconveniences. Yeah, I was that kid. I buried myself in books and drawing, but mostly drawing. I've always loved drawing as long as I can remember. Drawing seemed to be the only thing that made me happy. It was the only thing I felt I was really good at. It made my mom and family proud. It made the other kids actually treat me like a human being. It made me feel like I finally fit in some way. As I got older, though, kids got meaner. School got harder. Life got harder. My drawings went from Sailor Moon, cartoon cats, and cute little hamsters to skulls, dead people, and violent scenes. It wasn't until I stopped trying to fit in that my mom and teachers were alarmed. All the adults in my life blamed my strange behavior on things like my age, hormones, sibling jealousy, and even my zodiac sign? Eventually, my mom had had enough and dragged me to the doctor. I was then diagnosed with, oh no, not the big, bad word! Yes, depression. Amongst other things. Before my 17th birthday, I had already dealt with self-harm, suicide attempts, eating disorders, and dropped out of high school. Art had taken a backseat in my life for a number of years while I tried to figure it out. I went back to school, had a part-time job, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. In 2013, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. My mom, who had been previously hesitant about me pursuing art, was now encouraging me to do what she couldn't. She was 44 years old and hadn't been able to pursue her own dreams in art, and now she was handed the ultimate death sentence. I didn't want to lose my mom, but I also didn't want to lose my ability to create things like she did. In fear of losing the only thing I was good at, I started drawing again, every day. I channeled all my pain and fear of the future into my art. Taught myself different crafts and skills. And then I realized that this was what I wanted to do is more than just a hobby. I wanted to do it forever. I met my boyfriend, now fiancé, later that year, and things started to look on the up and up. I stopped self-harming and used my art to cope with my grief. In late 2014, I became pregnant with my son, and I was finally creating as much as I used to as a child. After he was born, I decided I wanted to really take my art in the direction of a career. So I finished up my last outstanding high school credit and applied to the art and design program at George Brown for fall 2016. Finally, I'm training to turn my passion into a career. Of course, I still have to deal with my issues on a day-to-day basis, along with balancing my family life and college. But now I have a goal in mind, healthy outlets, a fantastic support system of family, friends, and the professors here at George Brown. But most important of all, I have hope. Please, please don't ever give up. Talk to someone. You are not alone. Someday, someone will want to hear your story too.
This is my creative journey. So my journey started when I was a kid. It was more so in music than art at the time. While I was interested in drawing, it kind of took a back seat to my music. Music was always super important in my family. When I was young, and even to this day, the radio was always on in my house throughout the day, non-stop. Turning to CBC Radio 2. I think if it wasn't a publicly funded station, my dad probably would have kept me in business. My dad insisted that my siblings and I all play some kind of instrument. It didn't matter what we all had to play with. Since at that time, we were kind of forced to play something, we didn't know what we could play, so we all ended up taking piano lessons. I wasn't really into it that much. Classical music isn't the most popular choice amongst young kids. At the same time, I was interested in art as well. We didn't have cable TV back then, so a lot of my entertainment came from comic books and cartoons on VHS. I tried to emulate some of those comic books and movies, The Lion King and the Joker were two of my favorites, but I wasn't great at drawing back then, so I didn't really have much of a clue. I still doodled a lot in school, but I didn't take anything classes in high school. After a few years of playing piano, I got sick of it and wanted to learn how to play guitar. My parents were happy that I still wanted to play an instrument, so they obliged me when we got a cheaper electric guitar. I insisted I didn't need lessons though, and for that I'd like to apologize to my family. But I hope I'm not fine. Over time, I slowly got better. I practiced chords and scales by looking at them online. I got good enough at that. I played in a few different music songs. I started with chords on the piano, which I still like to do. I found a passion in music I didn't have before I played piano, which incidentally I decided that when I was probably around 14 or 15, I wanted a career in music. My parents were less confident about this and suggested that in case an underground guitar with a synth-playing bassline version legend should have a backup. So after graduating high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do besides music. I liked my range and thinking careers or school programs I wanted to attend, but I couldn't think of anything. It was such a difficult decision, so I started looking at jobs suggested in high school that could jump here. I worked in a restaurant, which I didn't like. I worked at our local mall, which was just awful. I worked at a bank too, and I'm sure that some people find discussing the benefits of mutual funds and GICs fun. I didn't really. During this entire time, my best friend and I would talk about art and design when we would hang out. He was, and I guess still is, very passionate about graphic design. The more we would talk about it, the more my interest in it grew. I started to remember my old passion for drawing and art. We would work together on designs and create our own and compare them for fun. After a couple of years of messing around in Photoshop and Illustrator, I decided to look into it further. I decided to go to George Brown to further develop my learning skills and to see if this could be a potential career for me. In the end, I'm still torn between music and design, and even then I'm still a bit unsure of both. But I guess that's part of life's journey. We just have to try new things and see where that path takes us.